Okay, I'm here with my dad, Dr. Richard Callahan. Going to be asking him some questions today regarding his father, Dr. Bert Callahan, who practiced chiropractic in Nebraska almost 100 years ago. So I just first like to say thanks for agreeing to do this. And the first question I have is just tell everybody what type of a guy your dad was, and just kind of give us a little background of his history in chiropractic.
Well, my father was Bert Owens Callahan, and he was from Sheraton, Iowa. He was born in 1881 and went to the Iowa Business College in Des Moines, Iowa. And then he managed a hardware store in Marshalltown, Iowa. And while he was in Marshalltown, Iowa, he developed a back problem. And this was probably about 1909, 1910. And during the time that he had this problem, someone referred him to a new kind of doctor at Marshalltown. And so he went to a chiropractor and was adjusted for his back problem and was helped dramatically with this chiropractor. And the chiropractor challenged him. He said, "Bert, you ought to go to chiropractic college over in Davenport, Iowa." So in 1909, so I was off a year or so there, he went over to Davenport, Iowa, went to Palmer College of Chiropractic. And at that time, B.J. Palmer was in his prime, and several of the classes were taught by B.J. Palmer. And so my father was there for 2 years and became a DC, a chiropractor. One of his friends was a man whose name was Henry Vogt from Nebraska. Henry was from Hampton, Nebraska. And Henry graduated a year before my dad did, and came back to Nebraska and came to a town called York and set up his practice in York, Nebraska, and was here about a year and let my dad know that there was room for him to come over and practice chiropractic in York. And so he decided he would do that, and he came all the way from Sheraton, Iowa over to York, Nebraska, and set up his practice in York. And Henry Vogt was with him a year, and then Henry said, "You know, I think I'm going to go to California. I'm an adventuresome guy." So he went to California, went to Anaheim, California, and in those days adjustments were $1, and he amassed apparently a fortune out there because he bought orange groves. And by the time Henry Vogt left the scene years and years and years and years later, he sold a lot of his orange groves to Disneyland in California. But anyway, getting back to my dad was a very, very fantastic guy. He appreciated what chiropractic had done for him, and he became a chiropractor in Nebraska as a result of that.
So, in the early days of chiropractic, we've all heard the stories of people going to jail, and from what you've told me, my grandfather was threatened to be put in jail, but was not. Can you kind of go into your recollection of that?
In the chiropractic in those days, there were many chiropractors that were told they were practicing without a license, and so they were threatened with being put in jail. And some of them were, and some of them even treated patients in jail. The patients that felt so much better from chiropractic adjusting that they decided to ask for help, and so the jailers in those days were pretty lenient, and they would let the chiropractor adjust them right in the jail using a portable table.
So, was your father threatened to be put in jail, or?
He was threatened to be put in jail by a local medical doctor here, and, and my dad said, "Well, when you're ready to put me there, I'm ready to go." But it never happened in his time in York.
Can you give us a little background on how unique a situation my grandfather had in the last, say, 20, 30 years of his life with his eyesight?
Yeah, my dad practiced in York 55 years. He died at the age of 86. And the last 18 years of his life, he was stone blind. He went blind from a a bout with temporal arteritis after having eye teeth pulled. And of course the venous drainage up into the eyes goes back and also drains the, provides oxygen for the optic nerves. And anyway, he got inflammation in there, and the inflammation, there was swelling, and it just cut off the nerve supply and the blood supply to his eyes, and he lost his eyesight. So he practiced stone blind for all those years, and just did a real good job. And I came in with him in about 1956 and practiced with him then, and he still carried on a pretty good practice for those 18 years that before he died.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like folks to know about your dad?
Well, he was a very, very kind man. He was a serious Christian, and he married an immigrant girl. He married an immigrant daughter here in York, whose parents came from Sweden, and they had 5 children. I was the youngest of the 5, and I was the only one that went into chiropractic.
Okay.